And hello again. Welcome to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook, along with Mark Osler, as we sit down here and talk through some of the many questions that many of us have about retirement. What's going to happen when I walk away from my paycheck? One of these days, you're going to retire. And then the paycheck depends on you. All the saving that you've been doing all these years, how does that become what powers your retirement? There's a lot to it, and that's what we go through on this show. Mark, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic, Randy. I hope you're doing well. Looking forward to doing some market talk. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, I think that one of the big things that people wonder about is that stock market, and we've been looking at that regularly as we do the show here, and we've gone through a time in the market where it has been really good. And we've seen in April where it goes down 20% in a matter of a week, and then it jumps right back up again. And so we all wonder, where's it going to go? So all those talking heads on the financial networks, they've always got an answer. This is Brian Belsky. He's on Fox Business, and he sees, sunshine and rainbows coming ahead.
We still think that the United States stock market's the best asset in the world, period, for equities. And when equities are on sale, that's when you want to buy. We think that new highs are upon us. We think the stock market's higher at year end. We think the stock market is significantly higher 12 months from now.
Woo-woo! Full speed ahead. Here we go. All right. It really, I know that when you look at me and I answer a question, you answer a question and say, it depends. And I go, well, okay. But it does depend on where you are in life of what your appetite for the stock market is, doesn't it?
It does. And Randy, here's a good point. Okay. Am I to remember this correctly? But didn't Israel bomb Iran?
Yes, it did.
And didn't Iran retaliate?
Yes, it did.
Doesn't Israel kind of depend on the U.S. for certain things?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So what is the number one thing that a lot of people say could affect the stock market?
Global situations like we're having right now.
Geopolitical risk. There you go. So, I mean, I'd be a little careful about making comments like that, especially when we're just going through these types of current events. And these could have a strong effect on the market. So when we look at this, we want to understand, demographics of everybody's situation. Somebody might be 40. Somebody might be 70. There's a huge difference. That 30-year gap makes a big difference in what a person wants to do, whether they're retired or not. My father, he never really retired. He's 82, he'll be 83 very soon. And he just likes to work. They've let him cut off a day, but sometimes they rely on him that one day that he's not working. But he works 4 out of 5 days a week because he likes to do it. They let him work from home. Listen, whether you're 70 or 40, it makes a huge difference. We like to use that rule of 100. 100 minus your age tells us the amount of money we might want to put at risk. And look, folks, if you want to talk to me about things like market money, let's talk.
Well, one of the things I think that is very common among people who get into their late 50s and early 60s when they start thinking about retirement is they start looking at their 401k. They look at their IRAs. They look at all that they've put together for retirement. And they go, gosh, I wish that number could be bigger. We all wish that number could be bigger. And then they see a stock market rally going on, and they go, hey, Mark, should I push in a little extra right now so I can really hit a home run right before retirement? Seems like a good idea, but that's kind of a risky proposition, isn't it?
It is. And if you're looking for that slam dunk or that home run right before retirement, if you want to take that risk, that's up to you. That's probably not the advice I'm going to give. The advice I'm going to give is you got to start a little earlier, get to a point where you have something sensible, and then you get to that point where you realize, hey, I might need income from this situation. I might need to make some tax planning strategies. I might need to look at this thing and say, you know what, how is inflation going to affect me with regards to my money? Because all of this stuff matters. So we want to build all those things into your plan. And if you're trying to hit a home run right before retirement and you really think that that's the best way to go about it, I highly disagree.
So, but Mark, come on, a CD only gives me 3 or 4%, and the market can give me 15. Come on, that's so boring. But at the same time, boring can sometimes be better. You might be able to do retirement on 4 or 5%. You don't have to shoot for the moon and get 10, 12, 15 and beat the market, do you?
You don't. I mean, I have folks come to me and they say, should we diversify, earn a little bit more on this money? Well, first and foremost, why is this money sitting in the bank? Tell me, what is the specific purpose for it? Is it to get a safe return? Is it to get it, a decent return on it? Is it to put in real estate. Because I've had a few clients ask me that they have this earmarked for real estate or for primary residence in addition to what they currently have maybe before they sell it. And, for me, you have to have that money in a safe place. So a safe place that's liquid. So money market, savings, a brokerage money market, anything like that, that's perfectly fine because you need to have that liquid and safe at the same time in those particular areas because you're going to need that money at some point in the near future.
There's a big difference between you as an investor in your 20s, 30s, 40s, as you in your late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And the difference is now instead of putting money in nonstop, you're taking money out and you're living on that money. So it changes what your appetite for risk should be. And this is a conversation that you can have with Mark and sit down and say, okay, how much do I really want to be in the stock market? How much do I really need to be in the stock market? What kind of growth do I need in order to fund my retirement? These are good questions and questions that you can get answered. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. It's 984-300-1984 to have a conversation with Mark and just sit down and say, okay, how do I map out this retirement thing? What do I need? Here's what I've heard. Here's what my parents did. Here's what my brother and sister did. Let's compare it all and find out what's right for you. 984-300-1984 is our number, and you can find us online at moretoretire.com. So there are people that fall into different categories when it comes to retirement planning. Some are more complicated than others. There are 17 million people in the United States that own their own business or they're self-employed, and that's going to be their retirement. They're going to sell their business, and that's going to fund their retirement. And Mark, that kind of puts you in a different category as everybody else. I'm not in that category, but boy, does this bring the whole tax planning issue into focus, doesn't it?
It does. And hey, Randy, I'm a part of that. I'm
Yes, you are.
self-employed. I mean, geez, I have to think about this stuff. And, that's part of what we want to do. I know a group of folks that can show people where when they're selling a business or selling appreciable real estate, where they might be able to do some things differently tax-wise. And I think that you might want to talk to me about that. They're estate planning experts. I have folks like that in my hip pocket right here, and we can help you and have a good strategy for you when that time comes, or if you're at that time, because you know what? There are other avenues. You might think, oh, I have this or I have that. Maybe Trump's opened an opportunity zone again, or, we talked about Delaware statutory trust. There's other things. And you could talk to me about it. I know a lot of influential people that know how to do this, and they do it strictly by the Internal Revenue Code, and they do it with attorneys and CPAs, and it's high-level stuff. So what I can tell you is if you're in that particular situation, I know I can help. I know I could be a point man for that. And hey, you know what? If you need to invest it with me afterwards, I'm here for that. Whether you want to put your money in the market, I'll give you an example, Randy.
Okay.
The reason why I like talking about Market Guard, because I'm one of only 300 advisors in the country that uses Market Guard, is that they have a pure equity model called the MGOP. The MGOP is unique because they put it in a lot of different equities. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Now, there's a secret sauce to it. The thing that I like the most is that the S&P 500 is a 1 beta, right? But Market Guard, the MGOP, is actually under a 1 beta. And for me, that's key because that has to do with level of risk. So when we talk about that, if I'm going to allocate you to something, I want to be amongst a lot of different sectors because they react differently during times of geopolitical risk or a recession. Now, going along with that, if we need income or if we need preservation tools, we've got fixed index annuities, we've got lifetime income riders, we have those things. If you need to do some long-term care planning, there are alternative methods to do that as well. You could do long-term care planning if you're young enough and you feel like you can afford it. But if you also want to buy a long-term care type of annuity or a living needs type of annuity, those things are available as well. And there's one in particular that makes up for if our country decides to pull back on our Social Security benefits. There's one out there that will allow you to get at some of those funds in that way too. And it's the only contract I know out there that does that. There's a lot of different things we can do. Then we also have death benefit riders that are dollar for dollar withdrawal privileges. Randy, there are so many different things that we can do.
There's one thing about being a business owner and selling that business, and then you have this windfall there. And what do you do with that money, as Mark just kind of went through? There's another aspect of this, though, that I wanted to bring up, and that is, say, for instance, well, let's bring you own a restaurant, a pizza restaurant, or you're a plumber, or you're a dentist, or whatever it is that you do for a living. And over the years, Uncle Sam looks at you like what you are on your W-2 form. You make $200,000 a year, $300,000, or whatever you're pulling out of your business. But when you sell that business for $3 or $4 or $5 million or more, all of a sudden, in 1 year, Uncle Sam looks at you and says, "Look at my millionaire." And all of a sudden, you are the target of a big tax bill. What do we do about that? I mean, that is... it almost seems unfair that 1 year I'm going to have this big windfall and I'm going to get hammered, and then the next year I'm just a regular Joe. What do we do about that, Mark?
What do we do about it? We got to do some tax planning. We got to involve the CPA or the accountant that you have and talk to them about what strategies we're trying to put in place for you. Because if you do this planning ahead of time, we can solve those issues. And obviously, taxes go hand in hand with inflation as well. So do you want to go out and sell? Let's just say you get a business that's worth $4 million. Do you want to go out and you, let's just say you really have no cost basis to it and you have to pay over $1 million in capital gains? Would you rather work off of $3 million or $3.5 or $4 million in retirement? And that's a real question. Now, that doesn't hit home for everyone, but it can hit home for a lot of people. And you know, you worked really hard to build this business. So the tax planning strategies are really important. We got to make sure that we have the bottom line, the after-tax situation, what you're going to be able to use in retirement. And then we have to prepare for inflation as well. We can do all of these things here.
Maybe you own the building that you're in, and maybe there's a sale of the building. Maybe you have tenants in that building, of your building, and that's an extra income. There's so many different twists and turns to helping when it comes to you selling your business and making that your retirement. Let's sit down and talk through what Mark can do for you. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. 984-300-1984 is our number. 984-300-1984, or use our website, and you'll see our process right there that Mark brings you through. It's at no charge to you. It is moretoretire.com. moretoretire.com. Okay, so what are you going to do in your retirement years when it comes to your risk? We just had a big discussion about that. One of the things that might be holding you back or influencing you a little bit is what we all went through in 2008. This is Teresa Ghilarducci. She's a labor economist. She was on CBS, and she said, 2008 still has a major effect on us.
We have a name for living through that kind of volatility, and it's called scarring.
How do I help those folks or prevent that scarring from causing them to act
in a way that's
detrimental?
In times of financial crisis, do not talk to your friends or your family about what to do. Take a breath, take a minute, and rely on expert advice.
Okay, so let me ask first this question. Mark, do you feel that people have financial amnesia? They forgot about 2008? Or that is still hanging around with them, and they get a little risk adverse because they watched half their money go away and it took years to get it back?
Both. When you talk about financial amnesia, absolutely. There are folks that just say, you know what, set it, forget it. We've had record gains since 2009. 2007 to 2009, the S&P 500 dropped from high to low 56.5%. Mm-hmm. I'll go back to 2000 to 2002. When we had that drop, that recession was a 49% drop from 2000 to 2002. And if you take a marker and you draw a straight line across from the year 2000 to 2013, if you were just in the S&P 500, you would have made not one dime because of the two recessions. Now, with that, we've got financial amnesia for people that still were on the younger side of things. And then we have scarring. Absolutely. And you know what? I noticed some of it. I'm starting to see the commercial real estate happen. We were talking about this, how $1 trillion of commercial real estate coming due, I mean, that has a drastic effect over a 3-year period of time. That happening, that's going to affect a lot of folks, because where are interest rates at now where they were 5-10 years ago? Interest rates are a lot higher. And so you see a lot of places close. There was a Lowe's Foods up on High House Road here in Cary that I would pop into. I went up to them and I said, I heard you're closing this particular Lowe's. They said, yeah. I said, can I guess? They said, go ahead. I said, is your lease up? They said, yes. Now, perfect example. Does that mean Lowe's is going out of business? No, they're just shutting that store. They might set up shop somewhere else that makes it more convenient. They have to win and make the bottom line work. But there are companies that are going out of business. Now, when commercial real estate happens like this, it trickles down to residential. And that's exactly what happened from 07 to 09. Now, if you see it now, yeah, there's probably going to be some foreclosure opportunities in the near future. Will that affect the rest of the market too? Of course it will. Now, am I saying we're going to have a recession? No, I'm not saying that. But is there always a possibility for it? Yes. And if you think that Donald Trump coming into office is the savior of everything, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Now, I don't disagree with the cuts he did, with regards to DOGE and that kind of stuff. But then when you go and sign a bill where you're spending a bunch of money again, doesn't that defeat the purpose?
A little bit, yeah. So obviously the commercial real estate thing is something that we got to keep an eye on. All of us are working from home more than we did before. COVID has changed everything. My wife works in a really, really big building that they have lots of people in. And now the company's going, well, I want to hold on to this building, but there's only 6 people working in it. So that is actually happening. Let me ask this, though. We just had a discussion in our first segment about people taking too much risk. Are there instances where this scarring that we see here makes people not want to take any risk whatsoever, and it actually could put their retirement in jeopardy because they need some growth, but they say, I don't want to have anything to do with that stock market?
Now, if a person's a huge saver, I don't have a problem with that strategy. If they just want to put their money in the bank, maybe even pick some annuities at the same time and build towards retirement that way, that's fine if that's really what you want to do. But if you're younger, it's good to take some risk. Of course there is, because if you take calculated risk, you can also balance it out. So a lot of times we'll use alternative investments like structured notes. Randy, I think I've mentioned to you there's one that's considered a principal protection structured note, and the other one is a dual directional structured note that has 20% buffering. We use those particular strategies because you could potentially not limit your growth. Okay. And at the same time, you can break up the correlation, which means things moving in the same direction. So there's a lot of different ways we can battle that. And then in addition to that, if you're not taking that risk and you're not saving enough, then you're probably going to hurt yourself in the long run. But you just need to be diversified. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, and I want to share that with you. And I'm putting myself out there to let you know I don't charge for my time. The way I make money is with insurance product, they're commissions, and with brokerage, it's all fee-based. And that's just how we operate here, but we do not charge for our time or our advice. I will give that to you. And I know that the way it's all made up, I just trust that the Lord will provide.
What we'd like to do is have that conversation with you and come on in and let's get a real good look at what you've done so far. Many of you have been great savers. And what is it going to mean to you in your retirement years? And then the questions are, how much do I need to use that stock market? How much is it 60-40? Is it 50-50? Is it 80-20, 20-80? What is it? Let's figure out how much you need to use that stock market in retirement and find out what is comfortable for you. Give us a call. Give us a look at our website. We'll do that analysis for you. It really is just a conversation. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That's our number to trigger a conversation with Mark. Or give us a look on our website, moretoretire.com. That's moretoretire.com. Well, we've always heard that, throughout your working life, you should have an emergency fund. You should have a cash account on the side. So that's for, when the roof leaks or the water heater goes out or a car needs to be repaired, you've got that slush fund, so to speak, right there. In retirement, should you have that? And if you have that cash account, what should you use it for? Well, that was a conversation that happened on the Barron's Roundtable. This is Elizabeth O'Brien. She's got an idea about that.
So as you're approaching retirement, you want to nail down your cash cushion. That means setting aside at least a year's worth of expenses in cash. And what I mean by that is the amount you need to pay the bills after accounting for Social Security and any other income sources you have. That way you don't have to sweat the volatility as much if you know that your near-term expenses, your essentials, are taken care of.
That one kind of caught me by surprise, Mark. I don't view a cash account as something that's going to buffer me if the market goes down so that I can afford my daily expenses. That's for emergencies. How do you view a cash account? How much should be in there? And what does that conversation look like?
I do believe in the L word, liquidity. I do think it's important, but it could be used in a lot of different ways. If you're over 59 and a half with qualified money, IRA money, things like that, that's considered to be liquid. Okay. So there's liquidity right there. So if you're 59 and a half with qualified money, let's just say if it's in brokerage account or a 401k, it's still liquid. Now, regular brokerage money as well, still fully liquid. Maybe taxable events and issues like that with regards to if you have capital gains and you have to sell and stuff like that. But in general, I look at brokerage money as liquid. I look at money market money as liquid. Do you need to sit there and have it in a savings or a checking, which is usually lower interest? No. And a lot of times I'll send people to some money markets online if they want some more liquidity too, like just some good banks that I know will be around. And so these things are important. It's good to have some liquidity, but having too much, yeah. You can absolutely have too much liquidity if you don't have it earmarked for something. And I think it's actually kind of foolish. There's a lot of different ways we can play at this. People that bought gold like 3 years ago, Randy, they're up a ton, right? That's because gold fights against inflation. So it's inflationary measures. So gold will do that. And it'll also be around when the market tumbles a little bit. It should stick around as well. It's a good place to put money. Now, at the same time, another great place to put money, Randy, how about fixed index annuities or multi-year guarantee annuities? I just placed somebody into a multi-year guarantee annuity for 10 years and it has this high fixed return that's paying more than most CDs out there. Okay, fantastic. They know they're going to get that rate of return. And if they want to pull out the interest, they can. Otherwise, it grows compound because annuities will be tax deferred and they'll grow compound. Now, with a fixed index annuity, you have the potential to make more than that. And there could be other things that you might want to do differently. Let's say you're 59 and a half. You got money in a 401k, but you have no income plan. Maybe we want to earmark some of that for an income rider and an annuity because you need to make certain provisions in retirement. We can do that as well. Or maybe you're just looking for preservation tools to battle against that 2007 to 2009, what if this happens in the market again? That's another reason why you use an annuity as well.
That's where I wanted you to go because I don't view a cash account as a place to pull money from when the market goes down from my daily expenses. I think the whole idea of having an annuity or having bonds or having something else that kicks income off, that's where you get your daily income from, not from a cash account that's supposed to be there for emergencies. So this is another example of some of the advice that you can get on TV that sometimes doesn't necessarily vibe with where you're supposed to be or not knowing all the other options out there that Mark can open up to you. Let's talk about all the different ways that you can develop income in retirement. You know you're going to get Social Security, but then what? I mean, how are you replacing that paycheck in your retirement years? Let's have that conversation. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Here it is, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or our website is moretoretire.com. And Mark, when you go to your website, you're going to see all the different steps that you go through when you talk to people. And you have kind of a 5-step process. Tell me just a little bit what happens when people give you a call, set up an appointment, and they're going to come into the office.
Sure. First and foremost, why do we call my website More to Retire? Because More is an acronym for Mark Osler Retirement Experience. So just remember, More to Retire. Like, Randy, I need more to retire. Absolutely. Let's do this. So moretoretire.com. And you'll go to our financial pathway to more. And this is our process guide. So as you look at our process guide, step 1 will be a treetop view, and it's different for certain folks. let's just say, for example, you give me your statement ahead of time. If you give me your statement ahead of time, there's a secure upload on my website. So you just send me an email and let me know, hey, I sent you a secure upload. My email is Mark, M-A-R-C, at moretoretire.com. So I have a secure upload on my website. If you don't send it to me ahead of time, you just want to have a conversation, this is what step 1 is all about. But if you send it to me ahead of time, we'll have step 1 and step 2 together, which step 2 is going to be discovering your retirement desires, because we want to put together your needs and your wants so we can accomplish all of those things early in retirement, because you might want to travel in your 60s and 70s, but you get in the 80s, you might not want to travel as much or anymore. Step 3, we're going to personalize this. This is customizable. And even when we begin this, I'm saying it's customizable from now to the rest of your life. So we're going to make adjustments and switches and changes, because that's step 4. And then step 5 is going to be your ongoing support. We're going to be here for you, and we're going to help you.
Well, I can't use the word guarantee here on the show, and I won't. But what I can say to you is I'll bet that if you go through this process, you're going to know a lot more about your retirement than when you came in. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is how's this all going to work? I've saved, I've got $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million, whatever it is. And now what? Do I just peel money off the top? No, that's not really a great way to have. That's not really a retirement plan, is it? That doesn't involve taxes and Medicare and Social Security and long-term care and taxes. All of those different things that need to be a part of your plan. Let's have that conversation. Again, 984-300-1984 is our number, 984-300-1984, or moretoretire.com. We'll take a break and come right back with more of the Mark Osler Retirement Experience.
When something's wrong with your car, you might see a light flashing on your dashboard. Man, if you don't do something, you might not make it to your destination. Unfortunately, when you get into your 50s and early 60s, there's no warning light that tells you something's wrong with your retirement strategy. But again, unless you do something, you might not have the retirement you've always wanted. Mark Osler can help. He can show you how to deal with the decisions that make or break a retirement. Decisions relating to things like taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and even a correction in the stock market. He can help you build a stream of income that you can never outlive. Give Mark a call today at 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Get a free one-on-one review. Find out where you stand now and how he might help. That's 984-300-1984 or at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Online, you can find us at moretoretire.com if it's time to have that conversation about you and your retirement and how it's all going to work. You can also find our podcast. You can find this show and past shows as well. You can look them up on iTunes or Spotify. Just look up the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. And Mark, there's other ways to get in touch with you as well. As a matter of fact, you have a speaking appearance coming up on July the 19th. That's going to be at Grace Baptist Church in Goldsboro. What's going to happen there?
Yeah, it's a Liberty First meeting, and I'm not the keynote speaker. That the keynote speaker is somebody that formerly worked in the Trump administration. But what we're going to be doing there is talking about different things that's occurred within our country, how it's affected our finances, our bottom line, and then what we could do differently and what I could do for you differently in that area.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I actually read an article about that just recently on MarketWatch, and they say there's a lot of things that we've got to plan through with retirement. You know, there's markets, and then there's longevity, and then there's taxes. And it said that one of the things that we should really be paying attention right now is political risk, and the idea that our government continues to change the rules on taxes and retirement. And I mean, just in a short period of time, they've eliminated the stretch IRA. A couple of years back, they eliminated one of the Social Security strategies called file and suspend. So, I mean, things come and go, and we really got to rely on you to help us kind of navigate through some of those things, don't we?
Yes. I mean, this is what I do. When I do speaking engagements, I have to keep up with this stuff. These are current events. It's economics 101. This is what we do. and we have to keep up with this because this has to do with our careers. And our career is managing money and also being able to help you in some other areas with commission-based products as well, like annuities and things like that. So for me, yeah, we have a fiduciary duty or standard of care based on when we manage market money, but I think there's a lot more to it because the insurance products are important too. And all of this is hand in hand with tax planning strategies using CPAs, estate planning using attorneys, strategic tax planning when you're selling a business or a piece of property. There's a lot more out there than you think. And there's some things that we do differently than anybody else. And I'm telling you, you'll be shocked when you hear about this stuff when you just sit down and spend some time with me.
Yeah, we say, you can go to H&R Block and you get maybe a qualified person there to do your taxes, but what are they doing? They're all looking back, constantly looking back. What happened last year? How much money did you make? All that. When you sit down with Mark, you're going to have a different idea here. We're going to be looking forward. What is your tax liability going to be in the future? How can we help you that way? So that's one of the big differences that we talk about here. That speaking appearance, again, is coming up on Saturday, July 19th at Grace Baptist Church in Goldsboro, and we'll be talking more about that as we get closer to the event. Well, we're going to spend a little time here in this segment talking about 401ks. And there's this is an amazing number, $44 trillion is in 401k and retirement accounts in this country. And here's an interesting stat. About $29 million of that is in accounts that have been forgotten about and are idle and are not being used, and people might be going into retirement and forget all about them. Have you ever had, when you sit down with somebody and say, okay, we've got this here and this here and this here, is there anything else? And then somewhere along the line, you find out about a forgotten account someplace that had a bunch of retirement money in it.
Yes, this happens quite a bit. It's quite shocking. I had a client of mine come to me, hey, I forgot about this 401k I had. It was like $45,000. I'm going, wow, okay, great. Well, that's a great thing. I mean, you just found out you had $45,000 more than you did.
Right.
I had another client come to me, and she told me, she's like, look, I'm kind of proud of myself. I said, yeah, well, tell me about it. She said, well, I was working out in Seattle, Washington. I was younger. I was maybe 30 years old or so. So this was in the 1990s because she's around 60 years old now. And she happened to put $1,000 into Microsoft, and she did so, and she made it a Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. And today that $1,000, this was a few months ago, is worth $126,000.
Found money.
Found money. She didn't realize this when we first chatted about it, but she knows about it now.
Yeah. There's actually a place that you can go, and I'll give you this it's the National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. If you don't remember that, you can go there and click in there and see if there's something from a previous job that you had that you put money in a 401k. And sometimes, there's $5,000, $10,000 in there. That's still a lot of money, but you don't view that on the grand scale of things as being a lot of money. But sometimes that's the kind of stuff that can be left behind. So we need to make sure that we've got all our eggs in the basket when we sit down and plan for our retirement. And sometimes it's just a matter of like a company will send you a note that says, have you changed your address? And you go, who are these people? And you realize you've got money there with them. So that's part of the process to try to find that found money, so to speak, when you sit down with Mark. Well, this is an interesting way of looking at 401ks. This MarketWatch article is entitled, All Hell is About to Break Loose in Your 401k. Well, that got my attention. So here's what they're talking about, Mark, and that is that the options in your 401k may be opening up a lot soon because there are people that are talking about putting Bitcoin, private equity, even an opportunity to invest in an IPO, an initial public offering, in your 401k. And many times, I look around at the building I'm in, and I'm one of the older people here, so they kind of tailor things for younger people. And sometimes a person like me who's getting closer to retirement might not look at those options or might look at them and say, that's good for me, but maybe it's not. Have you seen that? And like somebody comes in and says, my daughter tells me I should be in Bitcoin. So should I be in Bitcoin? And so what do you see along those lines?
If I was looking at any coin whatsoever, and I use this on my Sharpe ratio list because there is a ticker symbol on the over the counter market for this in multiples, but it's Ripple. Ripple is a XRP, but I believe the ticker is something like TOSRF, and it's in multiples of the amount. But what I find with Ripple and really intriguing is that they could be the next Ethereum and they could break out. But am I ask you to put all your bank money in there? No, do not bank on that. But when you're young and you want to tinker around and have fun with it, go and have fun with it. Be a coin-based millionaire if you want early on. But when you get older, you get to the preservation and distribution stage in your life. And when you get to that place, you want to preserve what you work your whole life for, and you want to make sure you get the proper distributions in retirement. And you know what? At some point, the mind starts to go a little bit. Even if your mind hasn't gone all the way, it still goes a bit. The memory isn't as good. And that's why, folks, when you're doing your own investing, and it's great if your mind sticks around for your whole life, that's great. But for most folks, it starts to go. And yeah, that's why we're here. We're here as professionals to help you in this area. So we want to make sure you have those preservation tools as well.
That's part of the analysis process, though. If somebody brings in their 401k, and this is why I think it's really important to come in early. I mean, if you were 60 years old and you didn't plan on retiring until you're 67, but your company is still matching, you have the opportunity now to move money out and put it in your own IRA. You can look at those 401k options, Mark, and say, if somebody says, here's an energy fund, and I heard Exxon is doing great. Should I get in there? And that's a conversation. That is really a good conversation for you to say, how should my money be allocated within my 401k to make the most of it before I retire? And then, on the other hand, rolling it out into your own IRA gives you the whole world of funds to look at. There's a couple of different ways to look at that, isn't there?
There is. And this is the thing. Give me some time. Look, if you think you have 10 more years of work to go, then that's great, because we could also look at other strategies. If you make too much money to contribute to a Roth IRA, we've talked about this on the show before, you could do a backdoor Roth IRA where you contribute to an IRA and then convert it. There's so many different strategies we can use. And then as we get close to retirement, how do we get that money to work for you? So it might involve an income rider. 20 to 25% of the time I'm using an income rider on a portion of somebody's money. We did that recently with a client, and we used the Roth IRA money for that. Why? Because we didn't have to worry about inflation as much with it being income tax free.
Got it. Well, there are so many options that Mark talks about here on the show, and you go, gee, what's that about? And I'm interested. And developing income in retirement, allocating the risk factors, all these different things are great conversations, and that is complimentary to sit down with Mark and start our process here, the process to more. And we talk about it all the time. If you go to our website, moretoretire.com, you'll see that process right there. And I'll bet that you're going to learn more about you, your money, your retirement, and what your aspects and what your retirement is going to look like by going through the process. Give us a look. moretoretire.com. Again, moretoretire.com, or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Well, sometimes couples are on exactly the same page when it comes to their retirement. Sometimes they're not. That's actually more common. This is interesting. This is a guy who talks a lot about retirement online, and he says one of the things about retirement is when you and your spouse are different ages, you kind of have to come to an agreement on retiring individually or retiring together.
I'm voluntarily retired. Amy is voluntarily working. I've had lots of people say, I'm voluntarily retired, but my spouse is involuntarily working. Those scenarios are completely different. So when I tell stories about my decoupled retirement, you need to keep in mind that we're both doing what we're doing on a voluntary basis.
All right, so I can see this in my life. Julie gets up and goes to work. I go hit the golf course. I don't think that would last very long. I'm laying in bed when she's going off to work. Do you see this a lot, that one spouse retires, the other spouse does not, and how that works out? Or do they eventually say, forget this, we want to go on our trips, let's just get us both retired? How does that conversation start to unfold?
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up because there's a lot of my clients that still work in some capacity. So they'll say, you know what? I have this handyman job that I like to do, or the stuff I like to do on the sideline, and maybe I'll do this, 3 days a week, and sometimes it ends up being 5 days a week. And does that impact the relationship? Well, it depends on the dynamics of the relationship between the two, whether they're comfortable with that or not. Because there are some people that they both retire and they're like, I need to get this guy out of the house,
I love it.
I'm no respecter. Whatever it might be, let's make that plan. But involuntarily working, obviously, is, you have no choice, right? But voluntarily working, we're doing this because we want to do it.
Great point. And I just read an article about, it's kind of interesting. There are people that get ready to retire and they want to retire, but their finances won't let them retire, so they keep working. There are other people that have plenty of money to retire, yet their identity and their purpose is so tied with their work that they want to keep going. And so I think that many of us can identify with all of that. And I think that kind of tells me that if you're going to retire, you kind of have to find your purpose and your identity. And that is something that is as important as the finances, isn't it?
It is. And that's the point. That's exactly what we're talking about. Folks that want to talk to me about retirement dates, desires, dreams, things you want to do, we're going to build it all into your plan. So let's get the retirement date on the calendar. Let's get it prepared. Let's get you prepared. And let's also maybe prepare you for if you have to retire earlier than that. Because you know what? That's always a question that might come up. What if I have to retire before because I got laid off or something comes up? We address this as well, but we want to make sure you have the retirement you're looking for. Do the things in retirement that you weren't able to do your whole life. For me, Randy, I've got 4 daughters. They range in a great, this is a huge range, 24, 20, 12, and 8. Well, guess what? I'm going to be a dad the rest of my life, but I'm raising young ones still. Well, I've got older ones. My 24-year-old works with us on our business. She works remote from Charlotte, but she's moving back to the area. She'll be in the office more often in August, and I'm looking forward to that too. What I can tell you is, just based on that and looking at my situation is going to be different than some other folks because the way I have to raise kids at a certain age in my life. Now, if I could do this the rest of my life mentally, I will. I probably won't put as many hours in as I do currently because we're building the business right now. Now, when you want to retire, we got to get that on the calendar for you because we got to make a point and an emphasis of getting you to that finish line. I have folks right now saying, I have worked my whole life because I raised my kids, I did this, and then we saved as much as we could, and this is where we're at. What can you do? How can you help us? And can you tell us if we can retire based on these numbers and figures? And we're not going to rely solely on Social Security.
I just talked to a coworker of mine, and we were talking about our early days in our career, and he said he needed more money. And he went to his boss, and he said, can I get another $2,500 a year? And the guy goes, I am sorry, there is just no money. And then he started looking for a job, and he got another offer, and it was for $25,000 more than what he was making. So he went to his boss. He said, I got an offer. I'm going to give my notice. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, what did they offer you? And he said, well, it's $25,000 more. He goes, give me the weekend. And somehow, out of the heavens, the $25,000 appeared. And these are the things that can happen to you when you get ready to retire. They may say, see ya, bye, love you, but and get you into retirement. Or they may look at you and say, what can we do to keep you here part-time? Or what can we do to keep you here at least? And then suddenly some money comes and you go, I can't say no to this. 3 days a week and I'm working at the same salary I was before. Sometimes, Mark, that's what happens to people, and they keep working and they're kind of partially retired. And that's a part of the process too, isn't it?
Yes, I hear the most common word I hear is consulting.
Okay.
People, they retire and they're like, I'm a consultant. I'm doing consulting work. Okay. Well, that means a lot of different things. But essentially, it's whatever career path you were in, you're consulting in that area. And I'm finding that people are finding part-time jobs doing that, and they're enjoying it. And I have a client right now that she is partially retired. She's like, I'm not doing this full-time like I was before. I'm pulling back, and I'm going to do this as consulting, and it's going to be on my terms. And the company agreed. Same company, but a lot of people go to different companies, or maybe you do it under self-employment. I've got clients where they worked corporate jobs, they built up money, they bought a bunch of real estate, and then they decided the real estate was going to be their income. And that's what they did. So they built a business based on rentals, and that's where they're making their money. And that's their job. They're enjoying it. They're in their 50s. There are so many different ways to look at this, but I could look at them and say, you're kind of retired because it's still passive income. And I know you're doing work for it, but you look pretty relaxed and laid back too.
Yep. Finding your purpose when you're in retirement is so very important. And that may be that you're going to work a little bit, and it's got to be on that voluntary basis. We don't want you to have to work in retirement. We want you to, if you want to work in retirement. Give us a call. Let's talk through it. Here's our number and here's our website, 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or moretoretire.com. So Mark is going to think that I've got this final story here because he has 4 daughters, and I have 2 daughters myself. And we're going to talk about weddings here for just a second. So there are weddings, and then there are destination weddings. This is kind of fun. Anthony Robustiano is a comedian, and he talked about what weddings used to be and what weddings have become today.
Wedding invites back in the day used to sound a little bit like Jess and Mike are getting married at the church down the street, reception to follow. If you cannot make it, we still love you. But if you do make it, we are so very grateful that you are spending our special day together. Wedding invites today. Jess and Mike are getting married at a 16-star resort in the Dominican Republic. We have reserved a block of hotel rooms for a cheap price of $1,700 a night. If you have children, please spend the money to hire a babysitter because we do not want them on our special day. We have provided you with 58 links on our wedding website. It's probably best that you take the remainder of your PTO that you have on us to celebrate our day. We really hope you can make it. If you do not, I promise you we will hate you for the rest of our life.
Oh, gosh. Have you been to a destination wedding, Mark?
We were supposed to. So
yeah, okay.
We were invited to a destination wedding over 10 years ago by a good friend of mine. He was a roommate back in college. You know why it got canceled?
Why?
They still got married. We went to their wedding and everything. It just happened to be in Princeton, New Jersey instead.
Okay.
But it just so happened it was in Mexico, and the swine flu came around right at that time.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, all right.
So we got refunded, but even back then it was like $3,000 or so just for getting involved. And then I have a client. I have a client of mine. I was just talking to him the other day. And his daughter, she fell in love with somebody that was a friend of hers for years, and they happened to move back in town, and they saw each other, fell in love, and they got married in a matter of, oh my gosh, probably less than like 7 months. But this is going back about December of 2024. They had a destination wedding in Hawaii.
Yeah. And boy, is that expensive to go. So one of the things where I want to go here is this is the kind of stuff that could pop up anytime in your retirement. Somebody invites you to a wedding and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to go for it, but you feel like you got to go. Or, I mean, something simple. The roof can start leaking, or a tree can fall on your house like it fell on my house, or the car, it's done and you got to have a new car. Unexpected expenses in retirement, Mark, are something you got to build into your retirement plan. How do you do that?
Conversations. We have these conversations where we build the amount of money. So again, it still can happen within a brokerage account. It could happen from penalty-free withdrawals from annuities if we need it. It could be RMD money. But again, you do want to have some money in money market or savings in the bank for, hey, in 5 years, I know I want to buy a new car. Okay. Let's have the conversation. Do you want to make payments where maybe you have a low APR, or do you want to pay for it outright? Well, let's keep in mind inflation as well and see if we can get a good deal on it too. But we need to put this in place. So all of this becomes a part of the process. New car, if you own your own home, well, yeah, guess what? You're going to have to do things to the home over the years. I mean, Randy, I had this home I've been in for 21 years. I've done over $100,000 worth of work to it over the years. It's going to happen. So you build that into it. If you rent in retirement, you don't have to think about that. And there's a lot of people that do that too. And you know what? That can work in retirement if you're working off a fixed budget or fixed income. So these are all the conversations we're going to have. What do you need? When are you going to need it? And how can we do this and build this into the plan? And that's what we're going to do.
I heard somebody once say, I allow for a $10,000 event every year. Could be a good thing. Could be not a good thing, like the roof or something like that, or it could be a destination wedding. And if you don't go, that money's there for you. Let's sit down and build a plan like that for you in your retirement. Give us a call. Let's get going on it. MoreToRetire.com is our website. You can start right there. You'll see our process to more and go through the process right there. Or you can give us a call and get going on starting your retirement planning today. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Well, that's all for today on the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Be sure to like and follow us on your favorite podcast app. And thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Mark Osler Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Mark Osler Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Mark Osler Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.